And we are back. As we move in the fall, it's crucial to remember that lurking just outside are disease-carrying bugs and birds that can ruin your family's fall fun. The College of American Pathologists is stepping into the spotlight, educating the public about protecting themselves from disease-carrying insects and birds because knowledge is the best defense. Here now to discuss more is Dr. Bobbi Pritt, who is the chair of the College of American Pathologists Council on Scientific Affairs. And Dr. Pritt, glad to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, and so when we talk about this here, in our last segment, if I don't know if you heard, we had the Girl Scouts and they were talking about bugs and we were talking about all these great things. But when we talk about, really now on the inside protecting ourselves, there is some things that we need to know because there are a lot of disease-carrying insects out there.
Right. I totally agree that many bugs are very beneficial, but there are a few out there that can cause disease in humans, and some of them can be life-threatening. And the bugs we talk about primarily are ticks and mosquitoes. Now, ticks are important. They transmit Lyme disease. That's the #1 vector-borne disease in the United States. So when you go out in the woods, whether you're a Girl Scouts or a hiker or you're just cleaning up your backyard, you need to be aware if there are ticks in your environment and how to prevent tick-borne or tick bites. And then mosquitoes as well. They can transmit viruses like West Nile virus, which can be fatal. Now, talking about birds, we're talking primarily there about highly pathogenic avian influenza, otherwise known as bird flu, and that is circulating in wild birds, but also we're seeing very large outbreaks in our poultry and our dairy cattle. And so that is also something to keep in mind.
When we talk about this, there are preventive measures that we can take, right? So what are some of the best ways that we can get down with best practices and some preventive strategies that can really help the average person?
For tick and mosquito bites, it's relatively straightforward. You need to be aware of when the ticks and mosquitoes are particularly active. For mosquitoes, that's dawn and dusk, if you can avoid those times, or be sure you're wearing a good mosquito repellent when you go outdoors. Ticks you're going to find in the tall grasses and in the leaf litter and brush. So if you're going to be exposed to those areas, wear your repellent. Something that has 30% DEET is highly recommended. Cover up exposed clothing, and then when you go indoors, make sure that you're checking yourself and your pets for ticks that they may have carried in with them. You want to remove those ticks right away. Now, for bird flu, we're seeing it in exposed dairy and poultry. So it's really avoiding animals that may be ill. And of course, right now, we're seeing a lot of state fairs and petting zoos. And so it's really important to follow all the hand hygiene and also know if you're going to be around animals, it's important to have that in as a consideration.
For yourself, I mean, you see this work all the time and you're familiar with this, but somebody at home, they have this experience. It's uncommon to them. Somebody gets ill, somebody's not feeling well. What advice do you give for somebody who does get ill with regards to this?
It's important to see your doctor right away. And when you go and see your physician, you want to talk about any potential exposures you may have had. If you just spent time, for example, as part of a school trip touring an area where there are dairy cows, or if you were spending a lot of time outdoors and had a lot of mosquito bites or potential tick exposure, you want to share that with your healthcare provider so that that individual can order the correct tests, which actually would go to a laboratory like mine, overseen by a pathologist, and then that information can go back to the physician so you can get treated appropriately. So don't panic, but go to your physician, go early. Some diseases can be treated early on, and that can improve the outcome.
You spoke volumes there when you talk about panicking, because I think when somebody occurs this kind of illness, it's panic. You don't normally have this. This occurs, and now all of a sudden panic flows into the life of people. But great advice there. But on the outside of that, if I'm looking for some resources, trying to find some helpful, much needed information that could guide me through this, where are some of the best places that I can go to access this?
You want want to make sure you have a really good trusted source of information. Two that I highly recommend are the websites from the College of American Pathologists and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The CDC website is cdc.gov. Lots of great information, including diseases that may be circulating in your area. And then the College of American Pathologists has a website designed for the general public. It's called yourpathologist.org. Again, these are great resources you can trust.
And so, as we look out during this time of year, obviously a lot of people have these concerns. And what are some of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to this?
I think not taking the preventative measures. You shouldn't come in and be covered with mosquito bites. If you are, then you're not wearing a good mosquito repellent. And then not following the instructions on the mosquito repellent. There are some mosquito repellents that are not effective for very long, and you have to reapply them every 30 minutes. You want to find a good repellent that lasts for at least several hours, and then make sure you read the instructions when you apply it.
I hear a lot about oil of lemon eucalyptus. Good for you?
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorites. And the studies from the Environmental Protection Agencies show that it's just about as effective as DEET. So that's a good alternative. And then there's also something called permethrin, which you can spray on your clothing and your gear, your shoes, your socks. So a variety of different options out there if you don't like the way DEET smells.
Yeah. And so, as you say, the variety of different options, obviously, you could use it on skin, but then also clothes as well, right? Both?
Permethrin you wouldn't put on skin, but you'd put it on your clothes and gear. And in fact, if I'm going outdoors, say I'm going to spend a day raking leaves and cleaning up outdoors, I'll spray my clothes the night before, really get them thoroughly sprayed, let them dry. It dries odorless, and then you know that you have that protection, but I'll still put something on my skin.
All right, Dr. Bobbi Pritt, thank you for the much needed information. I think families and the public has some information and some resources. Thanks much for being with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All righty. Listen, now, if you want more information, visit the website at yourpathologist.org. We encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We got more open coming up after this.